There is a plant sitting in millions of suburban backyards right now, trimmed into neat hedges, sold at every garden center, praised by landscapers, and it has been used to kill people for over 2,000 years. The yew is sometimes called the tree of death. And once you understand what it actually does inside a human body, you will never look at a privacy hedge the same way again. Here is what this video is about. The yew tree, that dense dark green shrub lining the edges of backyards across the US and Europe, is one of the most potently toxic plants on the planet. Most people who own one have no idea. The garden center did not tell them. There was no warning label. And the danger is not some obscure edge case. It is sitting right there in the open, producing bright red berries that look like candy to a small child. I have spent time going deep into the toxicology research, the historical record, and the medical case reports on this plant. And there is one detail about what this poison actually does inside the body that almost nobody who plants this hedge has ever heard. And I am going to save it for near the end, because once you hear it, the whole story lands differently. Let's start with something the ancient world understood that we have apparently forgotten. The name Taxis comes from the Greek word for toxin, which translates directly to poison. That is not a coincidence. The ancient world knew exactly what this tree was, and they treated it accordingly. Julius Caesar himself recorded that the Eburones chieftain Catuvolcus killed himself by consuming yew rather than be captured by Roman forces. Caesar even noted how easy it was for people to obtain the poison, because in Gaul and Germania, this species was everywhere. Pliny the Elder documented the poisoning qualities of yew in his natural history, including its use to poison arrow tips. Celtic warriors used yew sap on their weapons. Some ancient cultures used it as a fish and animal poison to aid in hunting. And here's the one that stops people cold. Pliny the Elder recorded that people died after consuming wine stored in barrels made of yew wood. The wood itself was leaching the toxin. You did not even have to eat the plant. You just had to drink wine that had been sitting in a yew barrel. Shakespeare mentioned yew in Macbeth, where it appears in a deadly potion alongside other dark ingredients. 2,000 years of documented lethality. And today we sell it at garden centers with a little plastic tag that says, "Great for borders and privacy screens." Now before you think this is just ancient history, let's talk about what this plant actually does when someone ingests it, because this is where it gets genuinely alarming. The toxins are called taxines, a mixture of alkaloids found in almost every part of the plant. The needles, the bark, the seeds, the branches, the wood, essentially everything except the soft red outer coating of the berry. And here is the cruelest detail about how this plant is designed. The red berries are the only non-toxic part. That fleshy red coating is actually sweet. Birds eat it freely. But the seed inside that berry, the hard dark stone at the center, is loaded with taxine. So a child who picks a red berry because it looks inviting and bites through it reaches the most toxic part of the plant through the one part that appeared safe. Quick question. If there was a plant in your yard where the most dangerous part is hidden inside the thing that looks the most like food, would you want a label telling you that before you planted it? Because there isn't one, and it is not just children. For the average-sized dog, chewing on a yew branch or as little as an ounce of leaves can be fatal. And here is something most gardeners never think about. Because the branches and foliage remain toxic until they are fully decomposed, trimmings left on the lawn after hedging do not become safe. They just sit there, slowly breaking down, still loaded with toxin. For horses and livestock, just a few hundred grams of plant material can be lethal. Animals have been found dead next to yew bushes with no prior warning signs. They looked fine, then collapsed. The toxins are also most concentrated in the foliage during winter months, right when fallen needles are blending into dead leaves on the ground, and right when pets are most likely to be sniffing around the base of the hedge. Now here is the mechanism, because this is the part almost nobody explains clearly. Your heart beats because of a precise timed electrical signal that moves through the muscle. That signal is controlled by tiny channels that let sodium and calcium flow in and out of each heart cell in a perfectly coordinated sequence. The taxine alkaloids, specifically a compound called Taxine B, which makes up about 30% of the total alkaloid content, block those channels, both sodium and calcium simultaneously. The effect is pharmacologically similar to taking a massive overdose of verapamil, which is a heart medication used in controlled clinical settings. Except here, there is no clinical setting and there is no antidote. The heart rate drops, blood pressure falls. The muscle loses the force to push blood through the body, and in severe cases, it ends in what toxicologists call cardiac arrest in diastole, meaning the heart does not seize up. It stops in a relaxed state. It simply stops filling and stops pumping, and it does not restart on its own. The onset can begin within 30 to 90 minutes of ingestion. In documented cases involving horses, collapse occurred within 15 minutes. When doctors do manage to get a patient to hospital in time, the medical response is limited to supportive care, keeping the heart going artificially while the toxins work through the system. In the most severe cases, the only intervention that has consistently saved lives is ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, a machine that takes over the function of the heart and lungs entirely. That is not available in most emergency rooms. It requires transfer to a specialized cardiac center. And if someone collapses at home from U poisoning, the window for reaching that level of care is not forgiving. Quick question. If the worst-case treatment for eating a plant from your backyard requires a machine that replaces your heart and lungs, and that plant has no warning label, does that seem like information you should have been given at the point of purchase? By the way, I keep a breakdown like this for every video inside a small community I run, where you can ask me questions and go deeper on this stuff. Link is in the description. Now here is the detail I saved for the end, and this is the one that reframes everything. The same plant genus that lines suburban backyards as a decorative hedge is also the source of one of the most important cancer drugs ever developed. Paclitaxel, sold under the brand name Taxol, was originally extracted from the bark of the Pacific yew tree. It is now on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. It is used to treat breast cancer, ovarian cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, and other cancers. The bark of the yew tree has saved an enormous number of lives. The needles, seeds, and wood of the same plant have ended others. That is not irony. It is exactly what makes yew pharmacologically extraordinary. Its compounds are so potent at disrupting cellular processes that, in a controlled oncology setting, they kill cancer. In an uncontrolled backyard setting, with the wrong dose and the wrong part of the plant, they stop a heart. The ancient world called it the death tree and treated it accordingly. We put it in front of our living room windows and call it curb appeal. So here is what we actually know. The yew tree is one of the most historically documented toxic plants in human civilization. Its poison targets the electrical system of the heart directly. The lethal dose for an adult is around 50 grams of needles, a small handful. For a child, far less. There is no antidote. It is sold freely, planted everywhere, and labeled as nothing more than a decorative hedge. If you have yew in your yard, the most useful thing you can do today is make sure everyone in your household, especially children, knows not to eat any part of it, and that the red berries are not food. And if you trim the hedge, do not leave the clippings where pets or children can reach them. The garden threat in this video was sitting in plain sight. The next one is invisible to the naked eye, and it is already in your garage. Watch that one next.